In this episode, we talk about the negotiations that happened in order to establish a global plastic treaty. We also talk about the government's plans regarding the GST regime, especially with regards to online gaming. But we begin today by talking about the case of a missing mountain of coal. Hi, I am Niharika Nanda, and you are listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. Right now, authorities in Meghalaya are on the lookout for close to 2 lakh metric tons of illegally mined coal, which appears to have gone missing from 2 remote villages in the state. Yes, that's over 20 crore kilograms of coal, which the state has been unable to find. The matter has led to a major controversy in the state, especially with the state's excise minister saying that at least 40 lakh kilograms might have been swept away by heavy rains. So how can so much coal go missing? And what is the reason that authorities are unable to find it? To answer these questions, my colleague Shashank Bhargava speaks to the Indian Express's Sukrita Baruah.
Sukrita, for those who are not familiar with how coal is mined and then kept track of, can you tell us how can so much coal go missing? And also, how do authorities know that this is the amount that has gone missing?
So what we are talking about is illegally mined coal, not coal that has been legally mined or stored in a legal manner, right? So Meghalaya has long dealt with the issue of illegal mining, basically non-scientific mining. So Meghalaya has rich coal reserves, and the most popular form of mining there has been rat hole mining, and which, we know that in 2014, the Supreme Court and the NGT have put a ban on that in Meghalaya, okay? So, given that even after that there have been a lot of allegations about the continuance of rampant illegal coal mining, and we've had disasters like, rat hole miners getting trapped even after this ban has been put in place in Meghalaya.
It's been more than a week that over 15 miners are now trapped inside a rat hole illegal coal mine in Meghalaya's East Jantia Hills district.
Efforts to rescue the miners have met with little success so far, and the miners are said to be inaccessible to rescue teams from the National Disaster Response Force.
The Supreme Court has expressed dissatisfaction over the pace of operations to rescue Meghalaya's missing coal miners. The court has said
Meghalaya High Court appointed one-man commission, the retired Justice Kotoki committee, which is meant to monitor, mining activities in Meghalaya. So, because of the repeated allegations and, the apprehensions that, illegal mining is very much alive in Meghalaya, there was a aerial survey ordered to get a sense what is the quantum of illegally mined coal that is there. So, Justice Kotoki told me that 4 major coal mining districts were identified. So, this is Southwest Khasi Hills, which is what we're talking about, the West Khasi Hills, the East Jaintia Hills, and the South Garo Hills, okay? So, an aerial survey had been done earlier this year by a private drone mapping and survey firm, and its findings were presented in March this year, okay? So, this survey found that across these 4 districts, there were 1.92 lakh metric tons of illegally mined coal, in different locations across these 4 coal mining districts. So then Justice Kotoki told me that even after this survey was done, there were complaints that there are still some locations in Southwest Khasi Hills where there is a lot of illegally mined coal which did not get covered under this survey. So a follow-up survey was done by the Meghalaya Basin Development Authority. And that is where the coal that we are talking about, the 4,000 metric tons, were detected. So they did the report that there are 2 villages in the Southwest Khasi Hills district, Rajaju and Diengnan. So this found that there was 1,839 metric tons of illegally mined coal in and near Diengnan village and 2,121 metric tons in Rajaju. So this comes up to around 3,960 metric tons of coal near these 2 villages.
Okay, so just to be clear, the first survey found out that 1.9 lakh metric tons of coal was missing across 4 districts. And then a follow-up survey was done where they found out that another 4,000 metric tons of coal was missing. So tell us what happened after that. What happened after this follow-up survey was done? What did the authorities do?
So the protocol, which is laid down by the Mining and Minerals Regulation Act, is that after, an illegally mined substance is found, illegally extracted mineral is found, then it is supposed to be seized by an appropriate authority. And it is supposed to be stored by them. And then an appropriate court is supposed to give orders on how this is supposed to be disposed. So after all this detection was done, what was supposed to have happened is that the district authorities and the mining department were supposed to go to the locations which are detected by the survey and seize the coal. So in the month of May, an official from the Southwest Khasi Hills District Administration was sent for a visit. And what the administration told me is that these are remote villages, densely forested. Where, there are no officials present in and around. So no officials were actually familiar with the terrain and, what happens. So an official went and came back with a report that he was only able to find 2.5 metric tons of coal in Diengnan village and 8.2 metric tons in Rajaju.
Okay, so even out of the 4,000 metric tons of coal, they were only able to find 10.5 metric tons. What did the Meghalaya High Court have to say about this?
So the court raised alarm over this and said that it appears that this coal has been illegally lifted and transported. So he kind of pulled up the authorities and said that, there has to be accountability over this and, there has to be action against the officials under whose watch this was allowed to happen. And of course, find the people who have, I quote, lifted this coal. So this led to a major firestorm in Meghalaya. It made a lot of headlines at the local level. And then these became national headlines when one of the ministers, state cabinet ministers, Kerman Shila, when reporters asked him about this, he kind of casually said that, there's so many possibilities. Maybe it got swept away by heavy rain because, Meghalaya has some of the most rainfall in the world.
Wait, so he claimed that over 4,000 metric tons of coal simply got swept away by the rains?
He didn't say that this is what happened, but the suggestion that he made caused a lot of outrage and people were like, what are government officials saying about this? And there was a lot of, obviously, discourse and a lot of concern about whether, the transportation and mining and sale of, illegally mined coal is still rampant in Meghalaya. So understandably, a lot of concern in the state about an issue that has plagued it for so long was raked up because of this. And so the Meghalaya government said that, we will probe this. Of course, the opposition, like Mukul Sangma, who's a notable opposition leader, he said that the Supreme Court should intervene. So it is a major issue in Meghalaya.
And so considering that all this coal is still missing, one imagines that it remains really vulnerable to being stolen and being illegally transported, right?
Right. So I spoke to the district commissioner, Mr. Barnari Maulong, about, now, what's happening now that this has come to their notice. He said that when the official went and came back with these numbers, we just assume that these are correct numbers. But he said that we are now following up on that. And, he said that he's deputed a senior official. So after the court's order, they were given a notice. And, they had to also report back to the Justice Kotoki Commission about what follow-up they've taken after this. So he said that they had 3 days in between. So an official went to these villages. So he said that the official went and gathered people who he said, I quote, are in the know about what happens in and around these villages. So he said that, basically what they did was bring in local stakeholders and got them to try and identify some of these locations. And he said that in those 3 days of the officials' follow-up visit, they actually found 500 more metric tons of coal. Okay. So he said that the district administration is exploring 3 possibilities. One is that, of course, there actually is missing coal which has been lifted or disappeared or whatever. The second is that in the initial visit, the official could not or did not reach the accurate location. So, there's a mispresentation of the scenario. And the third, he said, is that, he's casting some doubt on the accuracy of the drone survey images and the interpretation of that. So he's saying that that's something that they are exploring. And all of this will be verified through physical visit and verification on the ground. So that is ongoing. So when they had a meeting with Justice Kotoki earlier this week, This is what they told him. And they said that given the progress in 3 days, just give us another month. However, one thing is that it is the monsoon. And the DC kind of flagged that and said that because of the kind of rainfall and fog that is there during the monsoon, visibility is a big issue. Plus, this is a remote and densely forested area, very hilly. So he said that these are concerns. So, rain permitting, we hope to make more progress and find out more in the next month. So this is like playing out. There's still a search, a hunt for all this missing coal underway.
And this, we are talking about the 4,000 metric tons of coal, but what about the other 1.9 lakh metric ton? What is being done about that?
So then, after this whole fiasco came to light or is like playing out, so then, Justice Kotoki had a meeting with all the DCs, and there he flagged concern about the rest of the 1.92 lakh MTs of coal that were detected. And he flagged concern that, even on these, that requisite follow-up has not taken place. So he was very concerned, saying that this remains vulnerable to pilferage and, illegal transportation. And he told me that he fears that even this will slowly start to vanish, coal from this quantity. So the other DCs have also said that, the monsoon has been a major issue in locating and getting to the spot. And in fact, East Jaintia Hills, in that district alone, 1.82 lakh metric tons of illegally mined coal were detected, across like more than 1,500 dumps, like 1,500 locations. So he said that, there is one divisional mining officer who is there in the district. And if this one person is supposed to like go and check in all these sites, it's going to take years. So that's impossible. So he said that we've asked for additional manpower, and once the dry season begins, we'll go forward. But yeah, so this is what's happening. So there's apparently like a huge amount of illegally mined coal that has been detected. But that follow-up of seizing it has not happened.
And Sukrita, how common would you say are such instances in the state, these coal corruption related cases?
I mean, this has been an issue, right? And it has been an issue under multiple governments. And like I said, right, that there has been a lot of coal mining that has happened in Meghalaya, almost all of it illegal. So, yeah, like I said, this is a widespread issue of corruption, and that has been prevalent in Meghalaya for a long time.
And next, we shift our focus to the Global Plastics Treaty. After 10 days of negotiations in Geneva, efforts to agree on the world's first ever treaty to end plastic pollution ended in failure last week. This was the second time in just 8 months that the talks to hammer out a global plastic treaty collapsed. The breakdown came on the final day when deep divisions over the scope and ambition of the treaty, as well as its legally binding measures, could not be bridged. Now, these negotiations were part of the UN Environment Programme following a 2022 resolution to develop a global treaty on plastic pollution, including in the marine environment.
And this decision was taken in Kenya, in Nairobi in 2022, where they decided that we need to have a, if possible, legally binding treaty for all nations, where we can decide on certain issues with regards to ending plastic pollution, and which includes marine pollution as well, the marine pollution caused by plastics.
This is the Indian Express's Nikhil Ghanekar, who reports on environment for the paper.
And this broadly goes back to the fact that plastics, as we know, is something which is a ubiquitous item, across the world. It is used in everyday items. It is used from the biggest of machines to our daily needs. And because of its adaptability, because of the way in which it can be molded easily, it is found in everyday items as well. And as a result, over the years, we have seen this problem grow bigger and bigger with each passing year. However, the production of plastic and its consumption has not come down, commensurate with the kind of problems that it poses with regards to environmental hazards and health hazards. So that is in brief what the problem is, and the solution that countries have thought of is to start by, negotiating a deal or a treaty of sorts, which can be used to either have a cap on plastic production or have certain other measures.
Now, the most fundamental problem with plastic, as we know, is that it's not biodegradable and by some accounts takes over half a century to decompose.
And as a result, we have to address this issue by way of either cutting the consumption down or by recycling it. And for recycling, it means that we have to collect it in efficient ways. So that is number one. Number two is the fact that plastics come from, petrochemicals and oil and gas, which is fossil fuels, as we know, and because of which there are naturally emissions that are released into the environment during the production process. While the plastic is made, chemicals are added to it. These chemicals, when exposed to certain environments, for example, extreme heat, they can leach into the environment. The person using the plastic product can get exposed to the chemicals. And these chemicals, why are they used? Basically to mold plastics in a certain way, to add color, to give it flexibility, for instance. Secondly, when plastic is discarded, we all see on our streets, in our oceans, in our rivers, plastic chokes up water bodies. Plastic can harm the ecosystems and the creatures living inside these water bodies. So that is another issue. It can also contribute to climate change because of emissions from plastic products themselves. As far as humans are concerned, scientific studies that have been submitted to the United Nations Environment Programme have found that exposure to chemicals in plastic can cause endocrine disruption. Now, what does this mean? It means that it can cause diseases such as cancer, diabetes, reproductive disorders, and neurodevelopmental impairment as well.
Now, this year, some of the most contentious issues during the negotiations were the scope of the treaty, definitions of plastic, and proposals for production cuts. Nikhil says that these negotiations work on principle of nothing is agreed until everything is agreed, making consensus vital. But countries this time couldn't agree even on how implementation should be supported. For instance, countries like India, Cuba, and Malaysia pushed back against the draft language on the financial and technical support for stricter measures. Now, the talks were actually polarized between two main blocs. On one side, nearly 100 countries were grouped under a coalition led by Norway, Panama, the EU, and the UK. And on the other side were oil and petrochemical producers such as Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iran, and Russia, supported by China and India. Now, the first group called for strong, legally binding measures to cut plastic production, regulate toxic chemicals, and highlight health risks of plastics. They argued that curbing production is the best way to reduce fossil fuel use and plastic consumption itself.
Now, this is a contentious issue, to put it mildly, because that plastic production, the key material used is petrochemicals, oil and gas. These are fossil fuels. Now, fossil fuels as it is have been curbed because of the pressure on countries because of the global climate talks. So they are all countries which are rich in oil and gas. They are increasing their investments in petrochemical refineries and plastic production.
And this is why the other group, led by petrochemical and plastic producing countries, were opposed to the production cuts, arguing that plastics are essential for development and warned that the treaty was veering towards trade restrictions rather than environmental protection. And India supported this argument.
Now, India, as per the recent studies that we have seen across the globe, produces somewhere around if we talk about waste, generation of waste, then it's around 9 to 10 million tons of waste is generated each year. Now, government studies the more recent ones are not easy to come by in terms of the data. We don't have the latest studies, but this study was carried out by researchers at the University of Leeds, where it said that in terms of generation of plastic, India is number one right now. And we can see that obviously around our streets, around our water bodies, how it affects our drains and they are choked up. So it's definitely something which is very visible.
Now, over the years, India has put some curbs on plastic, including putting a ban on single-use plastic back in 2022.
Now, this was done for 19 category of products, such as, let's say, disposable plates, straws, the balloon sticks that are made of plastic. And these categories were developed based on a certain criteria that was developed by Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers, Ministry of Environment and Forest, and eventually it was notified by the Central Pollution Control Board.
But he says that interestingly, this time India actually rejected the idea of a global list of products to be phased out like plastic straws, bags, and microbead cosmetics, even though it has already banned many of these domestically. India argued such lists interfere with its right to development and said the treaty must not overlap with other environmental agreements. It also argued that without equitable financial mechanisms, developing countries would bear an unfair burden. And in the end, we talk about the government's decision to overhaul the GST regime with a special rate of 40% on sin and demerit goods. The top slab is likely to see the inclusion of pan masala, tobacco, cigarettes, luxury cars, SUVs, and online gaming. The Indian Express's Somerendra Barik reported that according to sources, the Department of Revenue has kept in mind the country's social ethos while tagging goods and services in the sin and demerit category, and online gaming is seen to be fitting that definition. If this move is finalized, it is likely to cause an upheaval among online gaming companies ranging from fantasy sports and real gaming platforms, which have previously complained of the 28% GST levied on them. The official data shows GST revenues jumped sharply after the Council's decision in July 2023 to impose a uniform 28% levy on online gaming, horse racing and casinos with effect on 1st October 2023. According to Barik, last September, Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said that the revenue from online gaming increased 412% and reached 6,909 crore in just 6 months from rupees 1,349 crore before the notification issued on online gaming. For casinos, she said that the revenue increased by 30% from rupees 164.6 crore in 6 months prior to the decision to rupees 214 crore in the same period after the move. The need for a higher GST rate for online gaming may also find support among policymakers, as they have been raising concerns over the amount of time being spent by users on these platforms that is resulting in them spending increasingly high amounts of money on such activities. As per the data from the National Payments Corporation of India (NPCI), UPI payments on digital games averaged more than rupees 10,000 crore in the first 4 months of 2025-2026. According to a report by FICCI and EY from March 2025, online gaming companies in India collectively earned a revenue of close to rupees $2.7 billion in 2024. These companies typically make money by taking a cut from the users' winnings. As per the report, more than 155 million Indians engaged with real money gaming subsegments such as fantasy sports, rummy, poker and other transaction-based games in 2024, marking a 10% increase over 2023. On an average, around 110 million people played these games daily. You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by Shashank, Bhargava and me, Niharika, Nanda. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Audio and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.